Hi everyone, Katie Winkle here with There's a Balance for That, and today I want to talk about the idea of happiness. I used to think that happiness was kind of a loaded goal to have, and the reason that I thought that is because there is such a wide range on the spectrum of human emotion that I thought, why is it that happiness is the thing that so many people strive for? And what is happiness really, right? Do we really even know what it is when we have it? And I feel like I can answer that question yes. Yes, we do know what it feels like when we have it. But I used to think that we should maybe aim our sights a little bit lower because of this idea of like, well, what is it really? Is peacefulness not enough for us? Is contentment not enough for us? And now that I recognize and acknowledge myself as being really happy in my everyday day to day and being really grateful in my everyday day to day life, and even among the mundane, not very exciting things, I still find myself in a lot of gratitude and in a lot of happiness. And so then I started to recognize for myself, I was like, oh, well, it is possible to have everyday happiness. That's not just like something that's a loaded goal necessarily, because once I'm here, of course, I don't want to go back to something like just satisfied, right? I was having dinner with some friends last night, and three of them had just met each other for the first time. And we were talking about, for each of us, and think about this, how amazing this is that this is the first time bringing this group of women together, and we're talking about what does it take to make us happy. And for one of them, it was success. No, I'm sorry. For one of them, it was satisfaction. For one of them, it was contentment. And for the other one, it was fulfillment. And it delighted me to watch them have this conversation because this is something that I've been stewing on a lot lately. What does it really take to be happy? And so I wanted to come on today and talk about kind of some stepping stones that might be useful for you if this is something that you're grappling with, okay? So for me, I have done a lot of self-development work, and I thought that I was like okay before I started doing this. Like, I didn't have the best childhood, didn't have the worst childhood, but I certainly didn't have the best childhood. And I always kind of knew that something was missing for me. And then when I started experiencing a lot of friction in my life, and this was around the time that my first daughter was born, the friction was really kind of getting to a place where I couldn't really handle it anymore, or I wasn't dealing with it as successfully as I wanted to be. And so I went to a personal growth workshop, and what came out of that for me was that I am enough just as I am, even with all my flaws. In fact, those flaws don't take away from who I am, they make me who I am. And I really learned to embrace myself as I was at that time. And then after that, things just kind of started unfolding for me in a way that created opportunity for me to really attain this status of happiness, right? And I don't want to call it a status, but I don't really know how else to describe it. And so after that, there was a follow-up workshop where I kind of got to learn, well, what's my purpose? What am I here for? And I'm here to nurture integrity in myself and others. And so what that means is living to my very highest truth. And the work that I was doing at the time didn't line up at all with my purpose. And so then I started like digging it. I was like, well, how do these things really work together? And then I realized, well, these things don't really work together at all, at least not in a way that made sense to me. Maybe for some people, they could have the exact same purpose and they could have gone to do that in that field of work. And for me, I couldn't figure out a way to make it happen. And in fact, like that, I used to sell real estate. And so even when I was in transactions with my clients, like it didn't feel good unless everybody was being completely fair. And it really wasn't up to me to decide how the other side was going to respond. Like, I could do my best to keep myself in integrity, and I would keep my clients in integrity. But at the end of the day, that was really only a small fraction of the equation of the parties that go into creating a real estate transaction. And so there was too much incongruence between me and the work I was doing. And so I found myself not very fulfilled by that work. out of integrity and not very happy. And so I ended up leaving that field to get into parent coaching, which is, right, living. That was something that was really important to me. It literally came into me as a calling, because when parents are living in full integrity for themselves, knowing their enoughness, loving themselves, appreciating themselves as they are, then they can raise their children to do the exact same thing. What typically happens is that we aren't enough. We don't feel we're enough. We have something we need to prove to people. And this is why we take out all of our stuff on our kids when they're triggering us. Our children are very, very good at making us feel things that we don't like to feel. But when we can shift those things for ourselves and recognize our enoughness and love ourselves as we are, then we teach our children to do the very same thing. And so as I started working on that field, I was feeling fulfilled and things felt really, really good for me. But at the same time, I needed to find a way to make money, and people weren't really prioritizing the work because they had so many other things that were important to them. If they were dealing with anxiety, or if they were dealing with behavioral disorders, or they're dealing with illness, or they're dealing with financial troubles, learning how to parent their children any differently and figuring out what their internal stuff wasn't really a priority. So there is, again, even though I was feeling fulfilled, I wasn't completely satisfied by my life because I wasn't able to support my family the way I wanted to. And so there has been this like gentle unfolding for me on what it has taken for me to get to a place of being satisfied, content, peaceful, fulfilled, and all of those things for me have led to happiness. And with happiness comes an obscene amount of gratitude for the things that I, experience every single day. Even like this fall was the prettiest fall I can remember, and just every day I would drive down my street going, oh my gosh, I get to live here, how lucky am I? And while I've been aware of that, it hasn't been on the top of my mind consciously that I can remember to that level, right? Like pulling up to my house and going, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful home I get to live in. Look at how healthy my kids are. Look at these great experiences I've been able to have. Those are things that used to be like it's a check mark, like I was trying to prove something to somebody, like look how well I'm doing. But now I just find myself incredibly grateful for this life that I've been able to create with my husband. And so if you are in this space of trying to figure out what is missing in your life, I would ask you to consider, what do you think it's going to take? What are the steps that you think you need to take to achieve happiness? Let's be really honest here. Happiness is not something you can buy. It's not something you can buy for yourself. Happiness is an inside job. Now, certainly the things, the cars that we drive, the clothes that we wear, the place we live, the furniture we sit on, like these things might make us like feel really good for a short period of time, or they might feel good. Like I actually am happy every single time I see my car. I'm like, that's awesome. I love this car. But my car doesn't make me happy, right? It's not something that I went out. It's not like I was miserable one day and I'm like, I'm going to go buy that car and that's going to fulfill me and that's going to make me happy. No, it kind of supports me, but it's not the thing that makes me happy. The thing that makes me happy is that I know I'm enough. I know I'm loved. I love myself. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud to be me. And when I live from that place, everything else in my life has gotten better. It wasn't that long ago that some of those statements weren't true for me. And when I started balancing for them, when I started shifting them so that the things that I wanted for myself were actually true for myself, then everything started changing for me. So know that if happiness is something that's a goal of yours, and I encourage you to have that as a goal, figure out, what do you think the other feelings that you need to feel are in order to get there? And then identify what's keeping you from feeling those feelings. And if this is something that you feel that you could use some support with, remember there's a balance for that. I can help you figure out, what is it going to take and what is keeping you from experiencing those feelings, to break down the step ladder of things that you need to do to attain happiness for yourself. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to visit my website, there'sabalanceforthat.com, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.